Ever since I started developing my farming sim game, I always wanted to compose music for it. And I was planning to learn music composition after finishing my game's main features. But this month, I couldn't do any productive work because of a health issue, so I ended up watching lots of videos on music theory. And then I thought this is a good opportunity for me to try making music, since the knowledge is fresh in my mind. So in this video, I'll walk through how I created my game's first theme song. The first step is, of course, lots of learning. I started by learning music theory, which taught me how to create different feelings in music using techniques based on scales and chords. Since I play the piano, I already know some basic music theory, so this step wasn't too difficult for me. Next, I watched tutorial videos on music composition, with a focus on how to pick and layer different instruments, and how to structure a piece using phrases and sections. Then I learned how to use Cakewalk by BandLab, a free software for producing music. I also looked for free virtual instruments and audio effect plugins, since Cakewalk doesn't have a lot of presets. And finally, I learned how to mix and master a track to make the music sound balanced and professional. I also bought a MIDI keyboard, which is a controller for playing and recording virtual instruments on the computer. This is completely optional because recording can be done using keyboard or mouse, but I find it more natural and efficient to use a physical keyboard. After all the learning and preparation, I'm finally ready to create my first song. I decided to make a theme song for my game. My game is a cozy farming game, so I want the music to feel relaxing. But I don't want it to be too calm because I want my game to provide joy and excitement to the players, so the music should reflect that as well. So I came up with this rhythm. And I already made my first mistake, because it was really hard to come up with a melody based on the rhythm. Usually, you start composing by either writing a melody or by writing a chord progression for the harmony. But I started somewhere in the middle and it didn't work. So I tried again by starting with the melody. I switched over to MuseScore because I find it easier to compose on music sheets instead of in Cakewalk. And I came up with this melody using what I call the Q&A format. Basically, the first phrase asks a question. The second phrase gives an answer. The third phrase repeats the same question. And finally, the fourth phrase gives a more definitive answer. Then I picked chords for the harmony, added a bass line, and created a more rhythmic harmony based on the chords. I recorded this section in Cakewalk at a moderate tempo of 100 beats per minute. I selected instruments with contrasting sounds so they can all be heard clearly in the mix. I used a clarinet for the melody, an oud for the harmony, and harmonic wood for the bass line. Then I added a percussion layer to bring more rhythm and movement to the music. This is what section A sounds like. Right now it sounds a bit dry. I'll fix this later in the polishing stage. Next, I set up the structure of this piece to use the common AABA form. I already made the first A section, so I duplicated it to create the second A section, which I'll call A1. I want A1 to differ slightly from A to create progression in the music, so I changed a few places in the melody. a new harmony for the last phrase using descending fifth chords for a stronger progression. I also added 2 more instruments for a richer texture. The first layer is a synth piano that plays sustained chords. The second layer is a mallet percussion instrument that echoes interesting notes from the melody. This is what section A1 sounds like. Next, I worked on section B. Generally, in AABA form, section B contrasts with section A to bring a different mood to the song. So I used arpeggio in the melody to contrast with section A's smooth and lyrical melody. I also used 2 voices for the melody to create a feeling of conversation. Then I added chords and harmony and recorded section B in Cakewalk. For the melody, I used a mallet percussion instrument and the harp to contrast with the clarinet from section A. This is what section B sounds like. Next, I duplicated section A1 to create section A2. Since A2 is the climax of this piece, I added a new layer of counter melody played by an electric piano to further enrich the texture. This is what section A2 sounds like. Finally, I created a short intro section by extending the harmony, the bass line, and the percussion in the beginning. And a short outro section by echoing the final phrase of A2. Now that composing and recording are finished, I started polishing the sounds. I added audio effects such as reverbs and delays to give the sounds more depth. I balanced the overall volumes of each instrument and fine-tuned the volumes using automation curves. I applied EQ to balance the sounds from each instrument and applied compression to smooth out sudden volume changes. I adjusted the panning for the 2 melody voices in section B to bring out more of the conversation feel. Finally, I exported the audio and applied another compression to make the sounds cohesive. And with that, I completed my first music. Let's listen to the final song. And that's how I created the first theme song for my game. I'm pretty happy with the result, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.